he worked a lot of things towards the development of the fundamental rights. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar are the most citizen friendly aspect of the constitution, because the fundamental rights, which are very considered a very crucial aspect of the constitution, because they all are safeguard people's right, and also freedom against abuse, or else we can say that interference by the government. So everyone in the society must be treated fairly, and also without any prejudice, for a democracy to grow as well as to develop. That's the reason the writers of the constitution believed that, including fundamental rights, or else we can say that all those fundamental rights or different clauses would be eliminate the barrier of existing socio-economic and cultural disparities, and also the fundamental rights allows the nation's different groups, and also the liberties and rights which are provided by the constitution. Even the right to equality, the right to equality, article 14 to 18 is clearly discusses about the right to equality. The right to equality guarantees equal treatment to all people by prohibiting legal discrimination based on solely on class, ethnicity, religion, gender, or birthplace. Even you may get doubt that right to equality, because according to the rule of law, all are all are equal before eye of law. No man is above the law. It means whether it is a poor person, whether it is a rich person, whether it is a billionaire or millionaire, whoever it may be, all are equal before eye of law. And also, we are supposed to be abiding citizens of the constitution, because the right to equality is one of the fundamental rights which are enriched in many constitutions across the world, including Article 14 to 18 of the Indian Constitution. So it is a cornerstone of the for justice, fairness, and also the elimination of discrimination in the society. So that's why, as already told you in the last class, that rule of law will be the one of the fundamental principle for the um, equality. So equality before the law, every individual, regardless of status, are equal in eye of law. So it is guarantees that no one is above the law. And another point is that prohibition of the discrimination. Okay. So according to the right to equality under Article 14, clearly speaks about the concept of equality, that states government must not deprive any individual equal treatment under the law, as well as which is guarantees equal rights within India. So everyone has a right to equal treatment under the law, irrespective of the gender or nationality. And equal legal protection under the law. It is very logical extension of equal treatment under the law. It specifies that individual inside the legal boundaries shall be afforded or equal protection. So it is the government affirmative responsibility that they must fulfill by enacting essential economic, social reforms to ensure that everyone receives the equitable protection under the right to equality. Are you following me? Okay, thank you. So here, Article 14 to 18, we know very well, right to equality and right to equality under the Article 15 is there, equality of opportunity with regard to public employment under Article 16. Even we do have abolition of untouchability under Article 17, abolition of the titles under Article 18. So if you look into the prohibition of discrimination, according to Article 15, clearly speaks about right to equality, which is clearly guaranteed by the government that equal rights shall not be prejudiced for any individual solely based on religious practice, class, gender, birthplace, or any combination of these factors, that such a citizen should not be success suspectable to any disability or limitation or any precondition notion. So nothing but this is Article 15 limits that it is a nation's power to provide a specific arrangements for the children as well as women too. So prohibition of discrimination can be eradicated. The discrimination means nothing but discrimination based on the religion or race or caste or sex or place of birth is prohibited. This clearly ensures that equal opportunities for every citizen or all public spaces and also employment. So apart from that, abolition untouchability article, sorry, equality of regarding public employment under 16. This is we can simply say that equality of opportunity, equal access to public offices, services, or employment opportunities for everyone, not only for one, but based upon the criteria, based upon the qualifications, based upon the what do you call according to the special provisions which are allowed to promote the social justice. Example, reservations in India for scheduled caste, scheduled tribals, and OBC, EBC, etc. So here, right to equal opportunity with regard to public employment, it's clearly, Article 16 clearly declares that no individual should be disqualified for a prejudiced against in any government occupation or position based on the religious belief, class, gender, ancestry, birthplace, residency, or any combination of all these factors. So, Article 16 clearly says that Parliament can enact legislations for requiring the residency under the state, union, or union territories of the state. Whenever the appointment or any employment in that particular state or union territories. So it clearly permits that the government to create a specific measures for the reservation of the jobs or position can be supported for this particular cause. So opportunity will be given to everyone, not only for one people, not only for some people. It is everyone. The Indian Constitution clearly says about it. And then next, abolition of untouchability. You know very well, the practicing of untouchability in any form is a punishable offences. Earlier, in olden days, varnashramas were there: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. So Sudras has to work for Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya, because Sudra means very lower caste people. In the society, they used the other people used to see them in a different manner. So Article 17 effectively nullifies and also outlaws the practice of untouchability in every manner. Untouchability is known as to be a social constructed concept that put down a specific disadvantaged classes simply based on their origin, or they discriminates against them based on the caste. So this is very much important. It means lot of changes have taken place under the Indian Constitution, because even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was one of the person who suffered a lot with regard to untouchability. So Article 17 abolishes the practice of untouchability, and the term untouchability is not explicitly defined in the constitution, but it refers to the social practice, or training, or we can say that it is a customized thing, or it is a certain group, primarily Dalits, or we can say now in the present scenario, SC candidates or SC caste people are treated them very inferior. So this is punishable. The enforcement of the disability arising untouchability is prohibited. Any action, if it is violated in the provision of Article 17 of the Indian Constitution, it considered as a criminal offense, and it is punishable under the law. Okay, and then the practices we know very well. You know, Sabarimala case you can take, that is prohibiting the practices like denying the Dalits or women's not entering into the temples, schools, or public places based on the caste. How many of you uh, watched the Sham Sundar? Sorry, what is the Nani movie? Do you know that movie? Sham Sham Singar, I hope so. So you could see that movie, Sham Singarai movie. So in this movie, it's clearly refusing to accessing drinking water or roads or public wells. So safeguarding these Dalits in the villages or prohibiting them using common facilities. It's clearly disallowing the Dalits from practicing in religious or social, uh, you know, ceremonies, because the caste system was not nowhere there in the earlier. It is based upon the culture, based upon the occupation. The caste system arised. Otherwise, there is no caste system at all. Naturally, we are human beings. That's it. There is no other caste system. So, to punish the practice of untouchability, Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955 came into existence, which were enacted to teach the Article 17, which is prescribed the penalties also for anyone who found guilty for practicing untouchability. Apart from that, the offenses also, because uh, many movements have been taken place to bring this particular act, or I can say section or article, because the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Mahatma Gandhi, and other social reformers done lot of movements for the ensuring the abolition of caste based discrimination in temples and also public places. Do you know whether it is Satyagraha 1924 to 1925 protested against barring Dalits from entering into the Shiva temple in Vaikom, Kerala in 1925 itself? Just a moment. In 1925, the many people protested for barring Dalits from entering into the Shiva temple in Vaikom, Kerala. Even temple entry proclaimed in 1936, that is the Travancore royal decree, where they, allowing the caste, including Dalits, to enter into the temple. So even in the modern examples also, I can take that the despite of being outlawed manual sovereignty, the scavengers who used to practice involving Dalit for cleaning human extra, that is washrooms and other things. Still, it is persist some regions. Even the Prohibition of Employment of Manual Scavenger and their Rehabilitation Act 2013 was reinforced to avoid the discrimination against the caste or any other things, or I can say untouchability. So even the Dalit people, children, being made sit separately or denied midday meals, having been reported in the long back. So such practices are direct violation of a Article 17. Even access to water resources, instance where Dalit are denied to access public wells and also forced to use separate drinking water pots. If you look into the Sam Singh Roy or any other old movies, you come to know the things, because courts in having strict action taken against the untouchability related offences. Example, I can take the state of Karnataka versus Appabalu Ingle. It is a 1993 case. The Supreme Court clearly held that practice of untouchability, even if done somebody, it is unconstitutional and punishable. So the impact of Article 17 helped to break down centuries of institutional discrimination. Even it is promoted the social inclusions as well as equality by empowering marginalized groups. Apart from that, the social resistance, which are deeply ingrained caste prejudice. So inadequate measurements also taken place by the what do you call awareness, weak awareness programs which undermine the impact of the Article 17. In the modern day, untouchability, though it is an explicit practice, but it is very rare indirect form of discrimination, like housing segregation, employment bias, or social exclusion. So in the present scenario, the Article 17 is not very much, because there is no impact of the Article 17 in the present scenario. Okay. So untouchability is known to be a social constraint, which is concept that put down the specific disadvantaged classes very simply based on the caste and other things. And now coming to the Article 18 of the Indian Constitution. Article 18 is clearly speaks about the rank prohibits the government. Article 18 is nothing but prohibition of titles. That is, the state cannot confer any titles on any person. So, according to the Indian Constitution of Article 18, prohibits the conferment of a title, that is, by the state or expect the certain academic and military distinctions. To uphold this principle of equality and democracy, the eliminating process that could create artificial hierarchy in the society, that we need to prohibit. So first of all, Raja, Maharaja, Sir, these all the words are represent the titles. So the state cannot confer any title or any person, whether it may be citizen or a non-citizen. So it is abolishes the titles such as Raja, Maharaja, or Sir, which were prevalent during the British era. So as they create a sense of social superiority, hence it is been uh, abolished. Even a few things are exceptional, permissible exceptions are there, like in the present scenario, academic distinctions are there, like doctor, we will call it as a DR. We will put before name of the person DR, doctor, and professor, or any honorary degrees confirmed by the university are allowed. In the same way, if you take military distinctions like general, colonel, or commander, or uh, uh, what do you call captain, all these similar ranks are allowed to honor individuals serving in defense or any other services. And article 18 subclause 2, that is provision for citizens. Even Indian citizen cannot be accept any titles from a foreign state without prior approval from the president of India. That is abolished. And foreign nationals holding Indian offices, article that taxpayer's title is nowhere, it is can be used, no problem. Okay, but only what I am discussing, that titles only can be prohibited. Okay, so foreign nationals holding Indian offices, article 18 subclause 3, foreign national who are working in India cannot accept any titles from home countries without any consent of the president of India. And pre-constitution titles like earlier Raja Bahadur, the before independence came into existence, pre-constitutional titles were there in the during the but by Britishers or princely states before independence are not recognized. For example, the Raja Bahadur, Khan Bahadur, Diwan, all are invalidated. Okay. Now you will get a doubt that what is the objective of the Article 18? The main objective of the Article 18 is to promote the equality by removing the markers of privileges which is based upon the hereditary or we can say artificial titles, and also to uphold the democracy ideal, and that every individual is equal before the law. And even in the present scenario, the post to independence, Bharat Ratna and Bharat Padma Vibhushan this kind of titles are there, no? So awards like Bharata Ratna, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, or Padma Shri are not considered as a title as per the Article 18. But the Supreme Court clarified that these awards are not hereditary, are not carry any privilege, and it is a recipients cannot be used as prefixes as the suffixes as their own names. You can mention in your resume, but if you can take that Bharata Ratna Varalakshmi, Padma Bhushan Manikyam, like that you can't take. Okay? So there is a judicial clarification given in the case Balaji Raghavan versus Union of India. Balaji Raghavan versus Union of India. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that national awards like Bharata Ratna do not violate Article 18 as they recognize merit and service. So, whatever the service, whatever the socio-economical services given to the country, they have recognized by the nation. It is creating a social distinction. Okay? And coming to the what is the significance of the Article 8? So Article 18 is clearly ensures that it is very deeply and respected based on the personal merit and contribution to the society. If you contribute better things for the development of the society, that is a social corporate responsibility, we will call it like. So what all you did based on your recognition, your contribution will prevent the this recognition, and it promotes the idea of equality by removing the social hierarchical associated within this particular title. So now we do have some challenges with regard to this title. So while Article 18 is prohibits the titles indirectly in the form of the social hereditary or any VIP culture, then it is a misuse of the honorary awards or distinction, then it will become a very controversial. So there are a lot of judicial intervention in this particular Article 18 of the Indian Constitution. Okay, and we'll tell you a few important case laws with regard to Article 14 as well as 15. Please make a note of leading case laws with regard to Article 14. I forgot to discuss the same. The first and foremost case law is State of West Bengal versus Anwar Ali Sarkar. State of West Bengal versus Anwar Ali. 1952. AIR 1952, Supreme Court 75. The West Bengal legislature enacted the West Bengal Special Courts Act 1950 to empower the state government to set up a special courts for the speedy trial with regard to second offences. So the government under this act transferred to trial to answer all Anwar Ali Sarkar, that is who is accused of a violent crime, to a special court. So under this special courts were not bound to a normal procedure. So Anwar Ali challenged this to transfer and argument the law violated by Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, which is contrary or arbitrary classification of unequal treatment. And coming to this particular case, issues before the court are: did the West Bengal Special Courts Act 1950 violates Article 14 by promoting arbitrary classification or not. One issue. The another issue is that whether the creation of special court justify the purpose of the speedy trial or not. So by analyzing all these things, the Supreme Court held that West Bengal Special Court Act 1950 was unconstitutional as it is violated Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. Hence, the court declared that act invalidated of the based on the violation of equality before law, absence of reasonable classifications, procedural unfairness, arbitrary executive powers. Based upon these factors, the Supreme Court clearly said that yes, the West Bengal Special Courts Act 1950 was unconstitutional as it is violated the Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. Hence, it become invalid. Okay. The other case. So I explained one case la. So rest of the cases also you need to discuss. You need to study in the same manner. You can just go through the another cases like E.P. Royappa versus State of Tamil Nadu. E.P. Royappa, Royappa. Is there any doubts? Please, you can chart box. You can put a chart box. 180. Right, no problem. Right. So this R.P. Royappa versus State of Tamil Nadu, 1974. This is citation is AIR 1974 Supreme Court 555 page number. AIR 1974 Supreme Court 555. Okay. The another case is Air India versus Nargis Mirza. This is very famous case. Every time you will get CBT problem with regard to Air India versus Nargis Mirza 1981. Okay. The another one, Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India. Please make a note of these case laws AIR citations. Okay. Menaka Gandhi case law citation is, I'll tell you the case also, don't worry, because you people are from first year, right? First, you make a list out all your cases and then you can make a citation. Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India, Air India versus Nargis Mirza, Indra Sevani versus Union of India, Keshwananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India, Joseph Shane versus Union of India, Sayara Banu versus Union of India. Sayara Banu, triple talaq. I told you, right? Yeah? Did I told or not? Yes, no? Yeah, make a note of all these case laws which I have already posted in the WhatsApp chat box of Google. Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India. And then next is I will tell you another two case laws. With that, you can able to understand the Article 14. Already I explained, but I forgot to give the case laws names. That's the reason once again I told you. Okay. Just a moment. You know very well about the Keshwananda Bharati also, because already I explained this case laws earlier in class about the basic structure. Even you know very well triple talaq case also, I have already discussed. You can take all these latest case laws, you can cited for the case. So, do you need to me do you need to me explain about all these case laws? Okay, okay. Yeah, Indra Sena Sevani versus Union of India. It is AIR 1993 Supreme Court 477 is the citation. This is the citation. And Air India versus Nargis. I hope I already told you. This is also AIR 1981. Uh, AIR 1981, Supreme Court 1829, or another equivalent citation 4 SEC 335. Then Keshwananda Bharati also, you know very well. Please check your chat box and make a note of all these case laws, and I will take explaining the latest case laws only, because you can write leading case laws, all these names. If you could remember the citation very well, then you write. Otherwise, you just take name and write the citation, and you can explain any one of the leading case laws, um, brief facts of the case, issues which are related to the particular case, and then we need to write the citation, and then provision of law, issues which are related to this case, and then finally you interpret what the court said, and then you give your own conclusion. This is the way where we have you have to write the case law. Okay, as already explained, the Shaira Banu versus Union of India, which is relating to the constitutionality of the triple talaqi e biddat, explained earlier class. And the Joseph Shane versus Union of India. This is relating to the decriminalization of the criminalizing the adultery, constitutional validity, that is laws were violated article 14, 15 and 21, that is discrimination based on gender. Okay, and then Navatej Singh Johar versus Union of India. This is also decriminalization of consensual same sex relationship under section 357 of the Indian Penal Code, but now it is the PNSS. So if you could able to just mention the title, it's enough. And Keshwananda Bharati also, you know very well, it is related to the basic structure. And now I'll tell you the brief facts of the Air India versus Nargis Mishra. In this case, gender discrimination in service conditions for a air hostess. So here Air India were ruled mandatory that termination of a service for air hostess upon the marriage within the 4 years, and she got pregnancy at the age of 35. And the Supreme Court struck down these provisions, which are arbitrary and also discriminatory, violating the Article 14, Article 15, subclause 1, and also Article 16. However, Supreme Court held that there is a different retirement age for the air hostess and male employees, and due to the nature of the work. So this case is very significant that the case was pivotal, recognized as a general equality in the employment, and then it is struck down the discriminatory service conditions based on the Air India versus Nargis Misra 1981 case. Okay, are you following me? Already mentioned, no? AIR 1981, Supreme Court 1829 is the citation. Okay, that is Supreme Court. Another citation is also there. That is 4 SCC 1981 335 is the page number. Already posted in the chat box. Please check it out. Right. So with this, we have completed right to equality, Article 14 to Article 18. Now, we're supposed to discuss about Article 19. What do you mean by uh, freedom of restrictions or Article 19 of the Indian Constitution? Do you have any idea? What is Article 19? Any idea? Yes, Mr. Rajesh Garu, I will share all important questions. I will draft in a word or notepad and I will share it in the WhatsApp. Don't worry about it. Already 2 units important question already discussed. Am I correct or not? Whether I have discussed or not, first unit and second unit is completed, and I gave important questions also. Right. So now I will discuss about Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. With this, I will close the today's class. Okay, we have 15 minutes. After that, I will give 5 minutes for the question and answers, doubt clarifications. Okay. Now let us see that what is freedom and restriction under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. Freedom and restriction under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution guarantees certain fundamental freedoms to citizens for are ensuring the protection of individual liberty. But however, these Article 19 rights are not absolute, which is not absolute, but it will be subject to the reasonable restrictions. Okay. Now, what is Article 19 subclause 1 says? Article 19 subclause 1, the Constitution, freedom of speech and expression. Article 19 subclause 1 subclause A discuss, which includes right to express opinion through the words or in writing or in any other medium. It clearly protects the freedom of uh, press or artistic expression. And next, freedom of assemble peaceful and without harms. Article 19, subclause 1, subclause B, which is clearly holds the public meeting, position, and protest. It's supposed to be free. So all these constitutional uh, 6 fundamental freedoms are dealt under the Article 19, subclause 1, subclause A, B, C, D, B, E, up to E, F, G. Okay, so the freedom of to move freely from throughout the India, Article 19 subclause 1 subclause G says, so whoever is a citizen of India, they can travel anywhere within the country without any restrictions. Okay, and freedom to reside and settle in any part of the India, Article 19 subclause 1 subclause E says, because all the citizens allows to reside or to establish a home anywhere in the country, and freedom of practice or any profession or any occupation, trade, business, which clearly speaks about under the article 19 subclause 1 subclause G, because right to choose one profession or occupation freely. Apart from that, there are certain restrictions on freedoms under Article 19, subclause 2, subclause 6. Here, the state can impose reasonable restrictions when these freedoms in the interest of the um, people or state, I can say. Restrictions can be imposed on the grounds of sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relation with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, contempt of court, defamation, instrument of the offense. So, in these circumstances, you have restrictions. You have restrictions. Are you following me? ఆర్టికల్ 19 సబ్ క్లాస్ 2 క్రింద కొన్ని అభిప్రాయాలని పరిమితం చేయబడింది. ఎందుకు అంటే భారతదేశంలోని రాజ్యాంగం మరియు సావర్నిటీ అంటే సావర్నిటీ ఆఫ్ ఇంటిగ్రిటీ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా అంటే దేశం యొక్క రాజ్యాంగ వ్యవస్థ మరియు దాని యొక్క ఇంటిగ్రిటీని కాపాడడానికి ఎలాంటి ప్రకటనలు లేదా ప్రసంగాలు వ్యవహరించరాదు. అంటే అంటే ఒక దేశం గురించి నువ్వు అభద్రతగా లేకపోతే ఏదైనా తప్పు మాటలు మాట్లాడినట్టయితే ఖచ్చితంగా అలాంటి వారిపైన చర్యలు తీసుకోవడం జరుగుతుంది. ఓకేనా? అట్లాగే ప్రజా సక్రమంగా కాపాడడం కోసం కూడా ప్రకటనలు లేదా ప్రసంగాలు తప్పనిసరి కావచ్చు. అలాంటి టైంలో మనము రిస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ అయితే ఖచ్చితంగా ఉంటాయి. ఓకేనా? అట్లాగే న్యాయ వ్యవస్థని తప్పు పట్టకూడదు. న్యాయస్థానానికి అవమానకరమైన అభిప్రాయాలు లేదా ప్రకటనలు ప్రోత్సహించబడవు. ఓకే, అట్లాగే ఏవైనా సంభాషణలు కానివ్వండి, ప్రకటనలు కానివ్వండి, వాళ్ళ అభిప్రాయాలని వ్యక్తీకరించుకోవచ్చు. కాకపోతే అవి ప్రజలకి ఇతరేతర మనుషులకి ఇన్కన్వీనియన్స్ అయి ఉండకూడదు. దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ ది ఆర్టికల్ 19 subclause 2 subclause 6 says. ఓకే, దేశానికి అగెనెస్ట్ గా కొన్ని రిస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ ఇంపోజ్ చేయబడి ఉంటాయి. వాళ్ళ శాంతి భద్రతను కాపాడుకోవడానికి ఇంపోజ్ చేయబడి ఉంటాయి. అలాగే ఒక దేశం ఇంకొక దేశం ఫ్రెండ్లీ రిలేషన్ ఉండే దేశాలతో ఉండే ఎలా ఉండాలో కూడా అవన్నీ కూడా రిస్ట్రిక్షన్ అయి ఉన్నాయి. అట్లాగే ఆర్టికల్ 19 subclause 3 ది ఫ్రీడమ్ ఆఫ్ అసెంబ్లీ, దట్ ఈస్ అసెంబ్లీ మస్ట్ బి పీస్ఫుల్ అండ్ అన్ఆర్మ్డ్. అంటే ఇప్పుడు మనకి జనరల్ గా ఏదైనా గొడవలు కొట్లాట్లు అయినప్పుడు పోలీస్ వాళ్ళు రిస్ట్రిక్షన్ చేస్తారు కదా, ఒకటి లేదా అంతకన్నా ఎక్కువ మంది కనుక గుమ్ము కూడినట్టయితే వాళ్ళని తీసుకెళ్తారు. సో ఆర్మ్స్ అంటే తెలుసు కదా, కత్తులు, కటార్లు, తుపాకులు పట్టుకొని శాంతి భద్రతని ప్రమాదంలోకి పెట్టకూడదు. అలాంటి రిస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ కూడా ఆర్టికల్ 19 subclause 3 లో ఉన్నాయి. సో ఇట్ క్యాన్ బి ఇంపోజ్డ్ టు మెయింటైన్ ద పబ్లిక్ ఆర్డర్ అండ్ సావర్నిటీ అండ్ ఇంటిగ్రిటీ. అండ్ దెన్ ఆర్టికల్ 19 subclause 4, restrictions can be imposed to interest of the public order, morality and sovereignty of the integrity. And freedom of movement and residence, article 19 subclause 5. So general public interest ni scheduled tribes, scheduled caste ఎవరైనా కావచ్చు, they can move from one place to another place and to prevent the exploitation and displacement. it can be restricted. That is, freedom of movement and restrictions can be imposed only in two circumstances. In one, general public interest, and the one is for the drowned down or weaker section people. Prevention of exploitation can be taken. Another thing is freedom of profession, trade, and business. Article 19, subclause 6. So, state can be regulate the restrictions on trade, public interest, monopoly restrictions. That is, only I supposed to do the business, not for others. Then, in those circumstances, to safeguard the public interest, they can impose the restrictions. That is, monopoly by the state. Example, nationalization of the industries and so on and so forth. Earlier, monopoly restrictive trade act was there. Now it has been banned, and now competition act came into existence. Most probably you may going to study these things in your thoughts. I hope you all studying thoughts along with Consumer Protection Act. Am I correct? If it is 5 year students, you may going to study in the second semester. Okay, and make a few judicial interpretation of the Article 19. That means case laws. Number one, yes, Rangarajan versus Rangarajan versus P. Jagvin Ram. Jagvin Ram. This is AIR 1989. And next is Menaka Gandhi versus Union of India. Here also Article 19 and Article 21 were interlinked in this particular case. The first one, AIR 1989, Supreme Court 2294 is the citation. And Menaka Gandhi, you know very well, AIR 1978, Supreme Court 597. Ramesh Thappar versus State of Madras 1950. It is very old case. It is a very old case. If you take the latest case laws, Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. AIR 2015. Supreme Court 1523. Okay. The another case is Indian Young Lawyer Association versus State of Kerala. Indian Young Lawyers Association versus State of Kerala 2018. AIR 2018, Supreme Court 3773. The another case is State of Karnataka versus Union of India. State of Karnataka versus Union of India. Okay, and so I will tell you only one case law of explanation with regard to these. So you can take the key principles of Indian Young Lawyer Association versus State of Kerala. So the main the facts of this case is the case was concerned about the constitutionality of the ban on women entry into the Sabarimala temple, so which was prohibited between the age group of 10 to 50 from entering into the temple, a place which is dedicated to Lord Ayyappa. So the ban was argued it is a discriminatory against and also Article 25 freedom of religion, even also freedom of movement and expressions. Okay, so in this case, the Indian Young Lawyer Association challenged the ban of the Supreme Court of India. The ban had been upheld by earlier judgment religious practices and that restricted women entry into the temple. And the Kerala government had made several very attempts to allow the women entry, but traditional religious practices constituted. So you know very well, as already every time I used to say that when the personal laws prevail, when the general law is silent, personal law will prevail. When the personal law is silent, then general law will prevail. In the same way, when the personal law is prevail, general law is silent, then personal law will come into the picture. So here, the Supreme Court, the by five judges bench delivered the majority of 4:1, striking down the ban of women entry into the Sabarimala temple as unconstitutional, according to the freedom of religion, freedom of movement of 19 subclause, which subclause 1, 19 subclause 1 and 2. I can say subclause 1 and 1B and you know 1C or 1D, 19 1D. But 1D is not applicable. Only I can say that ha, subclause 19, subclause 1D will attract even 25 of the Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, which is relating to the freedom of belief and expression or taking the religion. Then the Supreme Court clearly established that the court found that practice restricting based on the biological sex was not a core religious practice protected under the Article 25. So this the personal law is prevailing. So the court acknowledged the religion and may not justify discrimination against the women and declared such practice must be evolved with the unconstitutional validity. So finally, the this is very significant case with regard to the unconstitutionality of the articles 19 subclause 1 to subclause EG, and many subsections are there. So then the gender equality is core value of the Indian Constitution. The religious practice must be harmony with the unconstitutional, with the constitutional principle. That is what happened in this particular Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. Okay, are you clear? So these are the very important cases because I am discussing the concept along with the case law, so that if you are very good understanding of the concept without any interruption, no need to study separately about the part C. Okay, many people having doubt about it, but don't worry. Let me complete the syllabus, then I will dictate. So please let me know the timetable on which day the Indian constitutional law 1 falls under, which day you do have exam. Yeah, sure. Will give, will give. February 7th, no, don't worry. I will take care of that. Yeah. Somebody says 10th, somebody says, because I haven't checked the timetable. Let me check and I will already discuss the important questions. So please, can any one of you help me with the given important questions through my WhatsApp personal chat box, so that same thing I will prepare in the Word document and I'll post it in the WhatsApp group. Is it clear? So most probably by 30th of this month, I will complete, most probably first or second of the February, I will complete the syllabus, and also I will give you question and answers basis or concept oriented important question notes to you people. Don't worry. Believe on me. Definitely I will help you all. Okay? Do you have any doubt?
10th is the exam date, ma'am.
That's what you people going to start from 7th onwards, right? No worries. Because CBT can be discussed before a day of the exam.
Our exam starts 5th, 6th, and 10th.
Rewriting generally is 6th start, ma'am.
Okay. So because BPA and honors and others may be slight timetable changes with this. Please don't worry. So I will take care. I will check it out, and I will share the important question and answers, and also we'll discuss the CBT before day of the exam also. That's not a matter. Am I correct or not?
10th is honors exam.
And what about general?
7th, ma'am.
Okay, ma, no problem. I will take care, and I will give you the advices how to write the external exam, how to write the CBITs and other things also. Don't worry. By 2nd of the February, I will complete all the syllabus as well as CBIT also. Don't worry about it. Trust me. Okay?
మేడం ఆర్టికల్ 19 లో క్లాస్ ఏ అండ్ క్లాస్ 1 క్లాస్ 2 కూడా ఉందా మేడం?
Yes, class 2 కూడా ఉంది. చెప్పాను కదా.
ఇక్కడ మేము చదువుతున్నప్పుడు క్లాస్ 1A 1B 1C 1D 1E అట్లా
ఏ బుక్ తీసుకున్నారు మీరు?
JB series, ma'am.
సిరీస్ గురించి నన్ను అడగండి. మీరు క్వశ్చన్ గురించి మాట్లాడండి, దెన్ ఐ విల్ సే.
నార్మల్ అడుగుతున్నా మేడం. అదే క్లాస్ 2 ఏంటో క్లాస్ 1 అయితే క్లాస్ 1A 1B 1C 1D 1E లైక్ అట్లా
దాంట్లో సబ్ క్లాసెస్ కూడా ఉంటాయమ్మా.
ఓకే
1A కూడా ఉంది, B ఉంది, C ఉంది. అది అయిన తర్వాత 2 వస్తుంది.
ఓకే
మీరు పక్షి బుక్ తీసుకోండి, లేదా జైన్ పాండే బుక్ తీసుకోండి. ఓకేనా? లేదంటే జీవి సుబ్బారావు గారి బుక్ తీసుకోండి, ఇండియన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్.
మేడం ఒక్కసారి పేర్లు చెప్పండి. పక్షి
బీకే పక్షి. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పింది సబ్ క్లాస్ 1 లోనే G వరకు ఉంటాయి. సబ్ క్లాస్ 1 A B C D E F G. F లేదు, G.
ఎస్ మేడం. ఎఫ్ లేదు, ఎఫ్ తీసేసి రాస్తే కదా మేడం. అదే రైట్ టు ప్రాపర్టీ.
yes deleted. And sub class 2 ఉంటుంది. ఓకేనా?
ఓకే
రైట్.
సబ్ క్లాస్ 2 ఏంటి అని అంటే అదొకటి మిస్ అయ్యా మేడం. ఒక వర్డ్ చెప్పండి. సబ్ క్లాస్ 2 వర్డ్ ఏంటి?
Sub class 2 is just now I told. 1 second.
Thank you, ma'am. We are logging out because the class.
Ma'am, once repeat the name of the books, ma'am. Commentary books.
It is not a book, and it is a barracks actually. I can say it's barracks. Or you can take the Jane Pandey and Jane Pandey. Bakshi. Upendra BK Bakshi. We will call it as Bakshi.
ఓకే మేడం. అండ్ మేడం ఈ వర్డింగ్ యాజ్ ఇస్ ఇలాగే రాయాలా? ఇప్పుడు మీరు చెప్పారు కదా AIR 1999 SC 228 ఇదేందో తెలియదు మేడం.
గుర్తుంటే రాయండి, గుర్తులేకపోతే యూ లీవ్ ఇట్.
అంటే అది ఏంటో తెలియదు మేడం. ఇప్పుడు AIR అంటే ఏంటి? SC 597.
AIR అంటే ఆల్ ఇండియా రిపోర్ట్ అని అర్థం. SCC అంటే సుప్రీం కోర్ట్ కేస్ అని అర్థం. SCW అంటే సుప్రీం కోర్ట్ కేస్ వీక్లీ అని అర్థం. అట్లా ఉంటుంది. SCC అంటే సుప్రీం కోర్ట్ కేస్ అని అర్థం. AIR అంటే ఆల్ ఇండియా రిపోర్ట్ అని.
రిపోర్ట్. ఓకే.
సో మీకు ఆర్టికల్ 19 సబ్ క్లాస్ 2 ఫ్రీడమ్ ఆఫ్ స్పీచ్